Hey everybody, it's Book of Catherine. Welcome to Insider Movies. I apologize if you can't hear me very well, but I figure since we're a little bit late today for season 3, episode 3, that I would film outside since I can go outside this year and enjoy the fall for the first time. I learned this year why it's called fall, because things fall down. So in California, I knew fall as fall colors, like, fall, winter, like this is a fall color, right? So that's what I knew fall to be. That's what it's been to me forever, and ever since I moved here to the East Coast, I still thought that's what fall meant. And all these pretty fall leaves and fall colors and everything like that when I go out to see my doctors. But no, it's because everything falls to the ground, and you can see, like, everything that's on the ground. There's a lot of acorns, like a whole lot of acorns on the ground, and they'll hit you. Like, I was filming once and like a big bunch come down, and just like, I hope actually some don't come and hit me right now. So you can actually get hit with acorns. So that's why it's called fall. Anyway, I think I might have already said that to you. But anyway, I have been on before I get to the movies, like, I've been on a round trip. I just actually went with my husband because of my health. We couldn't leave me for emergencies' sake. We couldn't leave me for emergencies. We know why that is now. I talked about it on Twitter. So I ended up in Rochester, New York this week. And I made it. I made an 8-hour trip. I was very, very impressed with myself. So it is a big, big deal. And so that's why this is getting out late. So I apologize about that. So I figure outside in the fall colors will make up for that, I hope. So I hope that it makes up for that. But it's super, super bright. So if you don't mind, I'm going to actually put on my sunglasses. Hope that helps, and we'll do it together. So let's do an unusual Insider Movies with actual fall colors outside, because that's how we're going to do it. I'm so excited. Look at these gorgeous fall colors. All right. Anyway, so the first movie we're going to do is, so actually we'll do the kids again first, and then we'll kind of skip around. So kids are really simple. There are going to be some cartoons. They're not, well, you can do movies. They made some movies out of it, but you need to know them. This is for everybody. They're kind of camp. Scooby Doo. Scooby Doo is camp. And I thought I might have done a season 1, but I think I didn't do it. It wasn't on my list as far as honorable mentions goes. I didn't have it as crossed off, so I don't think that I did. But Scooby Doo is a big one. And then Casper the Friendly Ghost. Those are both really, really big. If I didn't do those already, then we are definitely doing those this week. So anyway, those two are cartoons that used to play, Casper the Friendly Ghost and Scooby Doo. And then they made Scooby-Doo into a feature film. They eventually did that, kind of like they redid the Brady Bunch or whatever. And so you can watch that with the family if you want to watch Scooby-Doo. It's a friendly, family-friendly thing. But really, you need to know the cartoons. People dress up in that for Halloween. They dress up as the characters from Scooby-Doo. You need to know that. It's very, very camp. I'm surprised no one actually did that as camp for the Met Gala. Those would have been perfect costumes. Amazingly perfect costumes to do for camp, to do anything from Scooby-Doo. They're so camp, those things. Super, super pop culture, right around from that era. Can't believe no one did it. Or if they did, they weren't published. I actually, come to think of it, I bet people did do it. So anyway, but Scooby-Doo is one, and every time it would be a weekly show, and then they would actually do sleuths, and they would solve ghosts and crimes like that. They'd have a team of 2 girls and 2 guys, and they'd run around in a van, and they would solve crimes, and then they had a dog with them, and it's a whole thing with the dog, and the dog's name was Scooby-Doo, and so they named the show after the dog, Scooby-Doo. And Scooby-Doo, where are you? I can't even do the names. I can't even do the sounds, but you need to know it because they refer to it, and I don't know, they do this thing where I can't even do it. I'm not even going to do it. I'm not even going to do it. So I'm not a comedian. I'm going to mess it up. It's something way too iconic in comedy that they do this. Like they do this, they put one paw down and they'll do another paw up. You'll see this thing where you'll see an actor or a comedian put one paw down in their set, and they'll put the other hand up like this. Actually, Kathy Griffin does it. She goes, "Arr," and she puts one paw down and she does another paw up. That's from Scooby-Doo when she does that in her sets. So it goes around in a lot of pop culture, still comes around. Anyway, you need to know it. Plus, it's very, very camp, so you kind of need to know it. I'm like, how do I keep fall colors in the background while I'm short? Don't know how to do that for you guys. So I'm like, how can I do that for you guys and still make it look all, oh well. All right, so Scooby Doo and Casper the Friendly Ghost. They never really did Casper the Friendly Ghost in actual feature film, but it's a great cartoon that you can show kids. It's safe, kind of like Charlie Brown was a cartoon that they showed on TV. Casper the Friendly Ghost was a running TV series that they had on TV, so safe to show. So number 2 is It, and that is another Stephen King one. And that is another one. I was just like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? We still can't say anything about this. You're serious? Because it was redone. It was redone, and everyone went nuts that it was redone. It was a super huge classic thing. But what's funny is that everyone, and I kind of agree with them, they were all like, you can't compare the two. You can't compare the remake of It. Again, they just keep remaking big, huge classic films, and there's a reason that they remake them, these huge classic films. And the bottom line is, like, if you see a remake of it, it's just a hint. Go see the original. None of the directors actually go on the new one. They all go on the original. You shouldn't really be doing remakes. It means that you're not raking up original material. It's so sad. It's like, go just watch the original. If they're remaking it, sometimes they remake something 2 or 3 times. And it's like, for heaven's sakes, it just means an original movie was that good and they're not able to make movies that well anymore. It's like, oh, for heaven's sakes, write something original already. And so the original It, Stephen King novel, but the remake, I'm at least allowed to talk about the remake. The remake, the scary character, not scary, it's creepy. That's all I'm out. I was like, can I at least say a word again? Can you give me a word? Can you give me a buzzword that I'm at least allowed to say? Like, am I allowed to reveal something? And of course, what was the one agreed upon again? Creepy. And I was like, thanks a lot. You guys have really been a help. Thanks a lot. You've been a really big help. So I'm allowed to share creepy again. But the fact of the matter is that when the remake used a Swedish model for the main character that was supposed to be terrifying. Anytime they use a model to be the one that's supposed to make you, shiver me timbers or whatever, it's like, okay, you just wanted a Swedish model's name to get bigger or whatever. The remake's dead. It's like saying Freddy Krueger and casting, I don't know, whoever is like a sexy, handsome, whoever in your mind, whatever generation you are. I have too many freaking generations on this channel, which is fantastic, but I can't think of a male model that would make all of you generations happy. Can't do it. I'm like, I could go think of a male model for your demographic and your generation, and then think, oh, would I want that male model, sexy abs and everything like that, sexy abs, sexy ass. Excuse me, men, sorry about that, but you guys do the same thing with our boobs and butt. So, but you know what I mean, like, and then all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, they're the ones that's gonna be snake out of the ground and everything, and be like, well, like, really, that's who you're gonna cast? Bad casting decisions. There you go. I don't care how much makeup you put on somebody. No, you're not going to cast Freddy Krueger with sexy ab man. No, this guy didn't have sexy abs or anything like that, but he's a Swedish model. Though some Swedish models do, this one, no, not so much. This guy was way more the like emo, more of like an emo model, if that makes sense. Like way more of the heroin chic model, like the Kate Moss kind of model, like just sits there and looks like glum all the time. Like, maybe that was a good casting choice. I don't know. He definitely looks glum all the time. Always depressing. So why are models depressing? Like, that should tell you something when they're like, here is like what you should be. And it's always someone with deep sunken eyes and like depressed. I'm like, oh, thanks. Yeah, that's going to lift us up and make us aspire to, that's who we want to be. All right. So then Hellboy. Hellboy is the family movie that you can watch, and it's basically, I'm gonna piss off a lot of gaming guys here. I don't even want to say, so, because I'm like, oh boy, I'm gonna really piss off people if I say what studio it's from and I get it wrong. I'm like, ooh. But Hellboy is just, it's an action hero. It's an action hero that goes more on the comic book, goes back comic books, and so it's a comic book character that came out. So this is way more, this is after the year 2000 when they started remaking comic book heroes. This is not the 60s, this is not the 70s, this is after the 2000s, but it's one that you guys wouldn't have heard of because it was like in, 2000, 2010. It's one of the older, like it's Hellboy further, I think like Selma was in it or whatever. And so it's not going to be one that you guys know. It's way further back. So people at Comic-Con would know what Hellboy is, but it's still further back. But the thing is that everyone in Hollywood knows what Hellboy is because it was such a big hit. Not as big as Iron Man, but it was a really, really big hit. It did really, really well. And it's kind of perfect for Halloween. It's like the perfect Halloween smash hit. It came out around Halloween, and it was there all October long. It went so strong. And by then, movies had started to die away because I think it was like at the end or whatever towards that when movies were really starting to tank. And it just kept going strong. And so it's really, really well known in like the comic book genre of they weren't really expecting it to do well. And then Hellboy just did super well. And so you kind of need to know it again if you want to be in Hollywood and stuff like that. You kind of need to know it's an unusual character. It's an unusual hero. Again, if they start bringing back World War II stuff, that's very interesting. That, again, when you think about how many of these comic book heroes, they're bringing back World War II and stuff like that, and the Nazism and everything like that, yeah, just go ahead and pay attention about how they're bringing that back and in what light they're bringing it back. But anyway, Hellboy's one, and it surprised a lot of people, and it did really well. And then the final one is Gremlins. And Gremlins, it's kind of funny because apparently it is still, I was really surprised because it still scared people. Still scared people from this generation. So I was like, oh, this isn't gonna, oh, nope, scared people. I was like, oh, nope, still did it. Still scared people. So, which means I think you're really, really going to love it. So this was in 80s movies. This was in late 80s movies. This was in the scope of Child's Play, except that it was better than Child's Play. I think it came before Child's Play. But this is why I'm doing it later in the month. This like trumps Child's Play in my mind. It's different. They're two totally, one's like a slasher. This one's not. This is, anyway, if you like, this is different. But it's still in that kind of 80s kind of, they were starting to do new things. You know, when they did, you're starting to see that. See, it hit me. Did you see? Oh, you didn't see it. Oh, that was an acorn hit me, landed on me. A bunch of acorns just like, I got whammed. I was like, who the heck hit? Oh, right, acorns knocked me out. Thank you for not hitting me on the head. I don't need another head injury. That's what I learned. I learned that my whole health is related to my head injury. That I was slowly, I'll have to do a separate video on that. So I don't know if I really want to talk about that on a movie video. Anyway, and that's also why I'm trying to kind of go through this. I'm a little bit more aware of my, you know, head. And I'm like, let's take care of my head after 16 hours of driving to and from Rochester, New York in 2 days. Why don't I take care of my brain? Why don't I actually do that a little bit better? Let's take care of it, shall we? Let's wear the sunglasses when the sun is out. Hi, sun. I'm going to protect my brain. Let's do that. Let's take care of my health. So, for those of you who don't know, I had a severe concussion in 2011 that started all of this. I had a number of accidents coming up to it, but 2011, after that, I really started to deteriorate and we didn't understand what was going on. We thought it was the other injuries in the accident that did it, but, you know, my head did go through a window. But there's just not a lot of information out there about concussions, and none of the doctors said, you know, hey, there's just not a lot of information out there about concussions. So anyway, I'll go into that more later. But that is scary. How's that for a scary movie? So Gremlins. So Gremlins is, I kind of think it's going to be your favorite of the weekend. There's plenty of you to see for all weekend long, but I think Gremlins is going to be your favorite, quite frankly. I think it still is a favorite. In Hollywood, for sure, it's a favorite because it just surprised. I know it really pissed off, for some reason, it pissed off a lot of religious folk. Because it was aimed at kids. It was aimed at kids. It was a scary movie aimed at kids, and still to that day, I mean, if you really look at scary movies leading up to that time, scary movies in Hollywood were still aimed at adults. They weren't making scary movies for kids. Remember how I said like Charlie Brown was very different for kids? They hadn't really aimed anything at kids yet. Even Child's Play was kind of aimed at kids, but everyone knew like, oh, this is for adults. Gremlins was very much marketed. They even, I believe they rated it PG-13, and there was a huge outrage because they really thought it should have been rated R, because PG-13 allowed younger people to see it, and there was a huge outrage because they're like, this is clearly meant for people under, you know, PG-13 to see it. It's clearly marketed towards kids, and it's true. It was all kids because Gremlins. I don't really want to give a lot away, but And I guess one of the things that you should know about back then is, and I guess I've been going into all the research about marketing and everything like that. You should know that with my PR background with marketing, one of the biggest things, what are they called? There's a really, really big thing that was a really big craze in the 80s. The 80s, there was so much wealth. The middle class was growing in wealth. I mean, America was growing in wealth all these years, and the 70s was really bad, but then there was a huge growth in wealth in the 80s, and the upper class and middle class really, really shrunk in the 80s. There was this huge clothing of the wealth gap, super, super, super big. The wealth gap really started to close in the 80s. Huge, really started to close in the 80s. And, that's when you heard the term yuppies, I think it was, or something like that. But because of that, the advertisers really got into like pushing all the kids. Like the Barbie market got super, super huge, the doll market. But what they started to do with they started to use cartoons and everything to really push product. Like Care Bears came out, and then they sold the Care Bears. They really started using like My Little Pony. That was a show that came out, and then they pushed My Little Pony dolls. They started doing marketing where they'd actually push out TV shows like Charlie Brown. That went along with the comic strip. It came out in the 60s, and that pretty much tied in with the comic strip. It wasn't like, oh, here's a whole set of dolls to go with it. It was like, here's a comic strip. It was like, maybe sell Ovaltine or something like that. There was a little bit of advertising that went with it, but they really started pushing more and more like, all right, here it is. We're putting out a cartoon that goes with a line of characters. G.I. Joe came with a set of characters. Every set of TV programming came with what you were supposed to buy your kid. And then they really amped it up with, I can't remember it, but there was this set of dolls that they came out with. Oh my God, this set of dolls. And it actually became like an upper class thing of, if you didn't buy your kid this doll, it meant that the kid could lord it over the other kids and be othering. It started the upper class warfare. It started this class warfare for the first time in America where you were other than, and I remember I'll get into that later, but there was great, anyway, so Gremlins was one of those things where it was targeted. It took a scary movie. It took that idea of My Little Pony and Care Bears, and it took that idea of Gremlins, but it did it with a scary movie. So it's like, we're going to sell Gremlins dolls now, but that's towards kids. It's Gremlins. It's not like adults were going to go around and buy Gremlins dolls. But they made it scary. And so they were like, what the heck, now kids are going to have nightmares. They knew that was crossing a line. It was crossing a really, really big line. And the movie industry was like, well, it's up to you to not show your kid that. And they're like, are you kidding? You're mass marketing it. And it was this whole thing. And it was really right in that 88 moment when we were going right into sustainable development and things were starting. That was 87. Remember 87? This was sustainable development. It began at the UN, and they really started foreign investment and foreign international, and then they finally signed it in 92 and everything like that. So this is when the first time they really crossed over boundaries of, because, Care Bears and things like that, it was at least something that was made for their brains to handle. Like, yes, it made them buy their kids toys and everything, but Care Bears were like, Care Bear stare, and it was like, love and, compassion and sharing. Those were like supposedly the values of like share and hold each other's hand and work together as a team. Well, not Gremlins. It was like, oh, this isn't team building, things that they already worked on in kindergarten and things like that. And how do you work together to fight evil? No, this was moving into, we're going to use dolls to terrify your kids and make them. And that was something more than developmental brains could handle. It was a startle syndrome. When kids are right, that's when their brain are developing and they need to learn to be stable in a scary situation and things like that. And, not shockingly, that's right, that generation that was born around that time, that's when you start seeing, now that I think about it, that's when you start to see the depression and suicide rates really start to skyrocket. I never put that together. Actually, that's when the depression in the Xanax industry really got started. God, I never really put that together. But they weren't putting kids on drugs in school before that. They didn't have this huge, kids on drugs at all. In fact, they were like, that's right, Nancy Reagan. That's right. I saw that on Joan Rivers when I was studying Joan Rivers. All the celebrities would get onto Joan Rivers shows and be like, oh, we really support Nancy Reagan in this just say no to drugs thing. They're really into never put a drug in a kid's system. And now it's they're actually they're saying your kid can't stay in school unless they're on a drug. It's a huge switch. That really benefits BASF, the German pharmaceutical industries. The entire German industrial complex, that, ran all the concentration camps in Germany. So how's that? Again, for a scary story. Can't ever keep this out. Just found about silicone butt implants. That's Brazilian butt plant. Has the highest death rate. Brazilian butt lifts. Highest death rate. 10 to 30 times the death rate of any plastic surgery, but everyone's getting it done. And why are they getting it done? Do you know how much silicone it puts in your butt? And who produces silicone? BASF, German pharmaceutical company that funded Hitler in the 30s. And it would be one thing if they had rehabilitated themselves. But no, they're the ones that are going around and polluting Venezuela. Every country that's polluted, that's where BASF is. So it's like, nope, they still use slave labor. They go everywhere. And I'm just kind of like, oh, no, they still have the same pattern of business model. Yep, they still work with the same companies. They haven't separated off. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm not going to not get into that. There's so much I want to say, but I know there's some of you guys that are just like, I'm here for the movies. I'm not here for the politics, and I'm going to keep that separate. Mwah! I love you guys so much. Here are some other insider movies and things like that, and maybe some of my kitties. And here you can subscribe to my channel to get updates, because I'm not always able to post it on Twitter. And link down below, you can see my Twitter there. And then if you could please at least donate $1 a month, that would really, really help out my health and things like this for this trip, because we have to do crazy things for my health. Like, we know a lot more about the brain damage in here. Like, I'm able to focus on you guys and do this because this is one task. I'm not able to focus on anything else. I'm learning so much more about what happened to me here, and like memories. Like, I can't remember yesterday, and I can't think of tomorrow. That's not a skill that I have anymore. Like, it's gone. And so this channel really helps, because I record my day and then I watch what happened, and I can remember, and I can tell my doctors this was my health on that day. You guys keeping this channel going has just been such a huge, that's why I've gotten so much better. You guys have helped me keep track of time and made it possible for me to go to so many more doctors. And if it hadn't been for you guys and being patient and listening to me and everything, I wouldn't have figured out, defined out things like that. Like my physical therapy, I'm getting better because I'm gaining back motor control. I'm redrawing the neurons in my map to have control to do this. I wasn't able to do that when I started this channel. I did not have the motor controller function to do this motion, right? I was able to just do this. Like, even just this when I first met you. That's about all I could do. Right? And so now I can do something like this and then even control that much. And I hope to get in more. See, it's still a struggle. See that? See? I'm still getting the neurons. That's not on purpose. My hand's just doing that. It's freaking out. Ah! How's that? Creepy, scary movie. See, I'm used to that, but you guys are probably freaking out. See, I'm trying to hold my hand still. I'm just trying to extend my finger, and it can't do it. So, but this is good. Like, this is muscles and motor control gained from the damage from having my head go through a window, and my brain slowly started to die. And I've been doing the therapy once I got the right meds and stuff in my system to rebuild my brain and do intensive therapy to just basically regrow my brain. And I could not do that without you guys, and it explains why I need your help so much. So I cannot thank you for literally your life-saving donation. I'm going to cry now. Thank you for your life-saving donations. Okay, I'm going to cry. Mwah. I love you. I'm tired from a long drive. Mwah. You're the best. Mwah. Bye.